Welcome to episode 76 of our Sperduti Fitness podcast. I'm your host, Brian. I'm here with my co-host, Beth. Before we jump into today's podcast, Coach Beth's going to take us through a few announcements.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. You guys, as fitness professionals, we have seen so many people asking and wondering, where should they start their fitness journey? So this is where we came in. We're stepping in. We're helping you guys out with the Sperduti Fitness virtual training app. And it's available on both the Android and Apple platforms. And after you download the free app and create your account, you can browse through all that we have to offer, from our online virtual training, nutrition coaching, yoga, fitness classes. You can even set up free virtual consultations with our trainers to help you put a plan into action. This is also where you can find our most popular package, the 12-week transformation challenge. This is the best thing to get into. This is the first program that brings education to your fitness and your nutrition. It's brought together in a 12-week program with our winner taking home a $500 cash prize. So head over to the App Store or to our website, www.sperdutifitness.com, to learn more. Now, let's get into today's podcast.
Awesome. And today's guest is a Reiki master, astrology expert, mystic, and she also runs her own holistic mentorship / coaching program. And our guest today is Lana Shapiro. Lana, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm super excited to learn about all of these things today. But before we jump into all that, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and how you started in your field?
Sure. So I come from the mental health field. That is where I started. I was a mental health counselor for 10 years before I became a supervisor of my clinic. So I've always been a healer at heart. Always just had this urge to help people. And I was working for a nonprofit mental health agency, and I always felt very limited in what I could offer people in that setting. I really always kind of felt like insurance was dictating what we can offer people. And I just felt very boxed in, and I am not a person who does well when I'm boxed in. I really like having freedom and flexibility. And that is when I started looking into opening up my own practice. So I was initially going to open up a mental health practice, but certain things just kind of started coming into my life. And my initial experience with Reiki actually was about 12 years ago. I had a difficult time getting pregnant. I love sharing this story. I share it with my Reiki students all the time. So I had a hard time getting pregnant, and there was no physical reason for why we couldn't get pregnant. And a friend of mine had recommended Reiki. And at that point, I had heard of it, but I didn't really know what it was. But it was also at the point where I was just kind of willing to try anything. So I went and saw a Reiki practitioner. I had one session, and she immediately called out all the blockages that I had going on. And I was pregnant within 2 months after that session, after over a year of trying and not being able to. So that was my first personal experience with it. And I totally bought in, and I was like, okay, there's something to this energy healing. And then, life happened. I had a baby. I got a promotion at work. We bought a new house. So there's just a lot of stuff going on. But in the back of my mind, I was always like, I need to come back to this. There's something to this. And then it was just kind of there. And then after I had my son, my daughter was 3, I had my son, and I went through postpartum anxiety more so than depression. Just feeling very irritable, and I just felt like I was losing myself. So I went to my doctor, and of course, the first thing they give me is a script for Zoloft. And I was like, well, I'm not really feeling that. Also being in the mental health field, I was like, I feel like I should be able to help myself get out of this. But we're always good at telling other people what to do. We don't really follow our own advice. But I was like, I'm not taking, well, actually, I think I did start taking the medication, but they actually made me feel worse. So I started going on walks with my son. So every day I put him in the stroller and I'd take like 3-mile walk. And I was like, okay, the more I move my body, the better I feel. So that's when I got into fitness, and I actually ended up becoming a fitness instructor. I have my group fitness certification, love teaching classes, definitely more of a group class person than one-on-one. I tried personal training, wasn't really for me. But with then feeling better with the fitness and the movement, I started learning more about nutrition. So I got my health and nutrition certification as well. And I just started making connections, physical health, mental health. Like there has to be a balance between the two. So as I then started thinking about opening up my practice, that's what I wanted to focus on, right? I really wanted to teach people about the physical health and the mental health and the emotional health, and then that there's a connection, and that it matters what we eat, and it matters, what we put in and on our bodies. So obviously I couldn't do that at my agency. So I went down to part-time at my job. I wasn't even working with clients directly anymore. I was doing more trainings and internal audits, which was really, it was a flexible job, but it wasn't feeding my soul. I wasn't doing what I was meant to do. I wasn't working with people anymore. So I gradually ended up going part-time, per diem, then quitting. And in January 2020, I rented an office and I started offering what I called holistic mental health counseling. And then we all know what happened in March 2020, everything shut down. So the studio where I was renting my office from ended up having to close. And I had to then, shift and pivot and move everything online. And I went back and got my Reiki certification at the end of 2019. So I was all, excited to go all in with offering this specialty mental health therapy, incorporating Reiki into it. Really excited about it. I couldn't really do Reiki online. So I was like, okay, well, what can I do with it? So I just kept getting more certifications. Kept learning more. Yep. Kept learning more. And eventually became a Reiki master so that I can train other practitioners and bring them into my practice. And it was through kind of this shifting and pivoting and doing everything on Zoom where gave me an opportunity, and I think it gave a lot of people an opportunity to go within and really figure out what our purpose is and what we want to do with our lives. And I ended up working with a life coach. Actually, I ended up working with a business coach initially because I really needed to do something with my business after quitting my job. I had this secure job for 17 years and I was like, oh, I'm done with it. Thankfully, my husband kind of carried us along, but I hired a business coach to help me with the business aspect of it. And then I started working with a life coach who ended up being an intuitive coach. And that's really when spirituality aspect of it started coming into my life. And she really helped me to learn how to listen to myself, learn how to connect with my intuition and trust my intuition, and really open myself up to everything that the universe had to offer me. And that's when I started thinking more about, okay, what else can I bring into my practice that's different and special and that's unique to me. And, I'm a big believer in once you put something out into the universe, it'll start coming back to you. So I got connected with this woman on Instagram who was into astrology. And I've always wanted to learn astrology. I was always attracted to the stars since I was a little girl, always fascinated with it. So I got my own personal reading. It's called Life Path Astrology reading, and it is a natal reading of your birth chart. And I got this reading, and it was amazing and life-changing, and just cleared so many things for me that I was like, okay, I need to learn how to do this. So I reached back out to the woman that gave me my reading, and lo and behold, she had a certification program that was 50% discounted at that time. I was like, okay, I'm jumping right on it. And that's just kind of how like one thing led to another, and how I ended up where I am today.
That's awesome. I want to just circle back a little. You said that you were having an issue becoming pregnant, and then you had Reiki work done, cleared up a bunch of pathways, and you were able to get pregnant. Was that your first pregnancy? And then did you have to do that a second time? Did you have to get?
No, I didn't.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I worked as a mental health counselor, the population that I worked with a lot of survivors of trauma, sexual abuse, childhood abuse. And when I went in to get my Reiki, she essentially told me that my body did not feel safe bringing a child into this world. So those were the blockages that she cleared for me.
Wow.
And once you became pregnant, what did your doctor say?
Honestly,
Like,
they didn't really say anything.
were they just like,
great.
okay, great?
Yeah,
Because that's pretty interesting, because you were having issues. You had
Mhm.
treatment, Reiki done, and then cleared up things, and you were able to become pregnant.
Yeah,
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yes, it is.
I know. And I always tell that story with a disclaimer, because I don't want people who are having difficulty to think that, oh, I'm just going to get this done and everything will be okay. The thing with energy work is that it works differently for different people. So there's never any guarantee with anything.
And I'm sure it had to, I know it was for me, opening a business 2020, everything's in person, and then everything just shuts down and it's just totally out of your control. And it really takes a lot to then, like you said, you have to look inside yourself and go, all right, what do I do? Let's come up with a game plan. And, that can definitely, I know going through that was a bit of a struggle, but a huge accomplishment when you figure it out.
Absolutely. Yes. It was one of those things that if I got through this, then I could really get through anything.
Yeah, it really gets your creative juices flowing.
Mhm.
It's like, all right, how are we going to respond to this? It's like, that's really awesome.
Yeah,
And you,
lots of networking, lots of building relationships, making connections.
was there a time prior to getting into your field, and you had mentioned that you've always felt like you were kind of a healer, or you were attracted to that? Did you know that from like a young age? Did you know, I like to help people? You know what I mean? Like, did you know there was something in you that wanted to help people, or a certain energy about yourself that you were going to end up in this field?
Yes, I was always that friend that everybody came to.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Even, when I think back to definitely in college and even in high school and probably even prior to that.
Right. And how long did you said you taught classes? What classes did you teach as a fitness instructor?
So I still teach.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
awesome.
I teach at the Y, and I teach on Zoom, just do my own
Nice.
thing. So it's something that I still love to do, and it keeps me moving and accountable. But I teach Turbo Kick and Soul Fusion. So initially, actually got trained through Beachbody Live, and then I got my group fitness certification through AFA.
It's awesome. And you had mentioned that connection between physical and mental health and keeping people moving. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Like the importance of physical and mental health?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as we move our bodies, as we exercise, we release those endorphins that are, those natural antidepressants that essentially the chemical reaction that you get from moving your body and from exercising is the same that you would get from medication, except no side effects.
Yeah. It's natural, great for your body.
Absolutely. And I mean, I could keep going on about the benefits of exercising. It helps with stress. It helps to focus better. It just helps with everything.
Amen.
Yeah, that's so true. They should write a script for exercising because it is so beneficial. We talk to people a lot about exercising. Exercising isn't just for big muscles. Right. There's so many other benefits to getting up and moving and getting your endorphins kicked in and stuff like that. And it's like,
right.
It's a lot of people.
It's just about moving. I think so often people hear, workout or exercise and they immediately associate it with something that's hardcore. But I tell my clients, it's just about like, if all you can do today is get up and go for a walk or walk up and down, stairs at your house. It's just about getting yourself up and moving. That's really the important thing.
Agreed.
Yeah, super important. And I want to talk a little bit. I mean, you have so many certifications. There's so much I want to jump into.
I know. It's like a running joke with my friends. I just keep collecting pieces of paper.
Yeah, that's awesome, bro. Can we jump into Reiki first? And can you explain what it is and how it works?
Absolutely. Reiki is an energy healing technique. So I describe it to people as a massage without the physical touch. That's kind of the easiest way to explain practically how it works when people come in. But it's universal energy. So it's God consciousness, it has nothing to do with religion. It's really more spiritual. So it's whatever your belief is. It's the energy that comes through the practitioner to clear blockages, stagnant energy. Our bodies tend to, we're all energy, right? So everything around us is energy, and our bodies tend to store energy within, which causes physical ailments, mental, emotional ailments. In Reiki, I work with the chakra system, and chakras are energy systems that go along. So I work with 7 main chakras from the crown to the root, and they are energy wheels that carry energy throughout our body. So it's our connection between heaven and earth, and that is what I work on to clear during Reiki.
And how long have you been a Reiki master now? Because I know you said you did get your certification, but then we mentioned that you got so many more along the way too.
I've been a master since 2021.
Awesome. And what would you say are some of the top benefits people can expect from receiving Reiki treatment?
So like I said, everybody is different and everybody has very different experiences during sessions. So I just tell people to keep an open mind when they come in for a session. What I hear often is that people feel lighter when they leave a session. They come in feeling heavy or weighed down or stressed out, and they leave feeling lighter. I've had people have some crazy experiences where they have seen or felt spirits of their loved ones that have passed away. I've had people connect with their spirit animals or their spirit guides. I've had people who didn't feel anything at all during a session, but then would message me a day or two later saying, "Oh, I'm feeling more emotional," or everything seems more clear. So it's very different, which is what keeps it very exciting. I always do a check-in after a session with a client just to kind of see what they experienced, what I experienced and felt. Sometimes I'll pick up on certain energies during a session as well, so give them that feedback.
And you mentioned picking up on their energy during a session. So a typical Reiki session, is there a certain format you follow, or do you kind of just go with the flow of what you're feeling during that session from that person?
I tend to go with the flow, but I do clear each chakra. So I will go through all the chakras and spend a couple of minutes on each one. But if there's an area where I feel more blockage or something else going on, it's hard to explain. It's more of a feeling. Then I will come back and work more on that area.
And you were saying there are specific techniques that you use during Reiki?
No, Reiki is, well, it's hands-on and hands-off.
Gotcha.
So I typically, I always check in with people because not everybody's comfortable with physical touch, but I'll typically start off hands-on just to connect with their energy. And then I go hands-off. I have a lot of people who fall asleep, so I don't want to startle them during the session. But because it's energy work, you don't actually need the physical touch in order for it to do what it needs to do.
I have a question for you, Lana. Are there specific conditions or ailments that Reiki can help with? Like if someone is thinking, wow, is Reiki something that I should try? What type of people do you feel like you see most?
So I recommend Reiki to everyone. I think everybody could benefit from it, even if it's just to help you with stress and anxiety. Typically, that's what I see. A lot of my clients come in because they're feeling overwhelmed or they're feeling anxious. But I've had some people that would come in with specific physical ailments. And again, I have to make that disclaimer that Reiki is not a medical treatment and it's not a substitute for anything, but the results kind of speak for themselves.
So it definitely sounds like someone that's experiencing stress, anxiety, overwhelming. It's definitely something for people to put into their wheelhouse to think, before I'm going to, commit to doing, the prescription route from my doctor, maybe I can try some of these different routes. Or it's really forcing you to do, which one is one of my favorite things. And my clients, if anybody's watching, is probably going to laugh, that self-reflection of just being there and taking that time, putting that time into yourself to address those issues, stress, anxiety, being overwhelmed. I love the whole concept that you are talking about behind Reiki.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always start out with a guided meditation. And I have people say, I've never been able to relax like that, or I was finally able to relax today, or I forgot about everything while I was laying on the table. So those are really the feedback that I take that makes me feel like, okay, it's
well, it's funny for all of us to know, because you said it earlier in the post or in the podcast here tonight. You said we all say that we're supposed to do those things, but sometimes know we're supposed to do self-reflection. We know we're supposed to take care of her, but I'm telling you, making that time in your calendar to go see a professional like yourself is really important for people to add to their wellness and to their lifestyle.
Absolutely. And I try to practice what I preach now too. So I don't want to let
each other to be accountable.
Yeah, right.
I don't want to let myself get to the point of feeling completely burnt out again. So as much as I love to give Reiki, I love to receive it as well. So my favorite Reiki practitioner is Rebecca. So, we see each other.
Yeah. I had Reiki done by Rebecca. It was fantastic. It is it's hard to describe how you feel, but it's funny, as you were talking about some of the benefits or what people experience, I experienced like a ton of stuff. Like it's a relaxation. Once you relax and let yourself go, it's a different type of relaxation. Like it's a different type of just like you start to like it was hard to explain the experience. Like Rebecca and I chatted about it like afterwards, and we still do, because I'm like, it was like a feeling of like weightlessness, but deep thought, but relaxation. Like it was like a lot was going on, but nothing. Like it was really interesting.
It is very hard to describe to people, which is why I say just get it done and see for yourself.
Absolutely. So we recommend, and we'll go over again all of your social media stuff and how people can get a hold of you for all of your services that you offer. At the end of the podcast. I want to jump into astrology next. Can you explain what that is and how that works?
Yes. So the type of astrology that I practice is called life path astrology, and it is based on where it's your natal chart. So it's where everything was located in the sky at the moment of your birth. And essentially, it is a blueprint for your life's purpose, your soul's purpose here during this lifetime. So if you believe in past lives and reincarnation, we choose our destiny. So we actually choose, our soul never dies, and our soul chooses when it wants to come back into this realm to either finish unfinished business or learn the lessons that it didn't learn in the previous lifetime. So those are the dots that I connect for people with astrology. So when we look at a chart, it kind of looks like a pie chart, and placement of each planet and each zodiac sign, and there's houses in astrology as well. So kind of help people bring that entire picture together to help them recognize their challenges, why they attract certain people into their lives, why maybe the relationships don't work out, what their purpose is, maybe why they hate their job because it's not the right job for them. So we go through, there's 12 houses, so there's 12 areas that we cover during an astrology reading. And then I do full moon ceremonies at my wellness center, and for those, I give people astrology reading based on the full moon and how it's impacting their sign and kind of what they can do with that information to help them get through the following month.
Lana, I wanted to let you know that Tara Karaleski wanted to say hello.
Oh,
She's
hi,
watching.
Tara. Tara used to be my boss.
Oh, you guys used to work together. Okay. Yeah, she had messaged me and said, "Oh my gosh, you're having Lana." Yes. So I want to know.
Buffalo's so small.
It is.
So does astrology predict personality traits and compatibility between individuals? Do you see that happen?
It can. Yeah, absolutely. There are
well, I'm a Gemini, so, I'm like, do I really have two sides? I don't want my husband to chime in because I'm sure he's going to say that I do.
I bet you get stuck in your head a lot, huh?
Gosh, a little bit.
Yeah, I'm interested to know, like, too, about, can you give us a little description of the zodiac signs and their meanings?
Yeah, I mean, well, there's 12 of them, so we might be here for a while, but
I'm super interested.
Yeah,
I'm a Cancer, so I'm trying to figure out some things.
Just you and Brian.
Yeah,
you got the Gemini and the
basically,
Cancer
right?
in the house.
I know.
So you're a water sign, so each sign has its element. So water element, water is associated with emotions. So Cancers tend to be very emotional, and they tend to be outwardly emotional, but they also like to hide in their shell and maybe not let people know how they really feel on the inside, and kind of hide and protect themselves. Cancer is also a cardinal sign, so that's a mode. So each sign has an element and a mode. And cardinal signs are the go-getters. They are the ones that once they put their mind to something, they make sure that they get it done.
That's interesting.
Does that kind of cover it?
Yeah. That's pretty much.
Yeah, but that's just your sun sign. So we have a sun sign, a moon sign, and a rising sign. So a rising sign is how other people see us. And so it's kind of that personality that we put out to the world. And then our moon sign is our subconscious and our emotional mind. So that has that plays a role into kind of you as a whole person.
Yeah, I think you pretty much just broke me down in the past 2 minutes. That's pretty much all me. That is pretty much all me right there.
Yeah, so that's just a small piece of what I would do in a reading, right? I'd go over your big three, your sun, rising, and moon, and then I would go into everything else. So it's a pretty detailed reading of you.
those are all different types of astrology systems?
No, it's all part of the same system.
All part of the same system. Okay. Wow. So how does astrology intersect with psychology and self-understanding? Is there a connection there?
Yeah, I think, like I said, for me, it really helped me understand myself, understand why I react the way that I react to certain things. It helped me understand why I feel called to help people and why I attract certain people into my life. It's really funny that somebody made a post in my Facebook group the other day about, if you're the sign, use predictive text, one of those posts.
Yeah, yes.
And 90% of my people were Virgos and Gemini, and that is who I tend to attract.
I was just going to say, what's on your schedule for this week, Lana?
Seeing that my reading's done. Oh, that's really, really, really
It's really
cool.
interesting, and it's so vast, and I could really talk about it all day.
It's deep. There's a lot
Yeah.
to uncover in it. I mean, there's so many questions that we could ask, and it would just lead us down into another rabbit hole and
Yep.
another rabbit hole and another.
Absolutely. Yep.
How long does a typical astrology session or reading last?
It's about an hour.
And then is that what goes on during a reading? Because we know, like Reiki, you said, could be hands-on, hands-off. It could, like, what does a typical astrology reading session look like?
I mean, it's kind of what we're doing now, except I get birth information from the person that I'm doing a reading for. So I get their date, time, place of birth, and I print out their natal chart. So they actually have it in front of them so that I can explain everything as we are walking through the charts so that they can see what everything means. And then I actually include a wellness plan for them at the end of the session as well. It's something that I created with the help of a book that I have that includes different wellness therapies that are beneficial for their sign, different foods, essential oils, exercises, things like that, that would be beneficial for their specific sign. And the interesting thing about that is that so often people tell me, oh, I already do that. And that's because intuitively, they actually know what their body needs, what their soul needs.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's kind of, it's just a back and forth, and I give them my spiel, and then they can ask questions, and there's just a lot of light bulb moments and aha moments that happen during those sessions.
Oh yeah, I gotta get into one of those. That sounds super interesting.
It is, yeah.
That's
I
super
love them.
That's awesome. And then we also wanted to jump in on and make sure I'm pronouncing it right. Mysticism. I'm not pronouncing that. Mysticism. Yes. Can you explain that and describe what that practice is?
Yeah. So I incorporate different divination tools into my session. So I use tarot cards and oracle cards. I use crystals, and those are just additional tools that have their own energy that sometimes I'll do standalone readings. Most of the time I just include it with, like I'll always do card readings at the end of a Reiki session, at the end of the astrology, and then it just kind of solidifies everything. And cards are, again, they're tools, but the messages that I get from the cards are very consistent with what the person is going through. And crystals are just, I love them because I feel like they, again, their energy, they're living things, and every crystal has its own healing property. I often use them with Reiki as well as during meditation. I use them personally myself. My kids love them. They each have their own collection.
That was something that I was going to ask, is do these three groupings, I don't know what to call them, these three different pathways, I guess we could call, you typically find that during a session you use all three of these? Or do you like to keep them separate and it's like, no, Reiki should be alone by itself? Or do you incorporate all of these things together?
I
Does
do
it just depend?
incorporate. Yeah, I incorporate, and I just use my intuition. So whatever calls to me, that's what I pull out. And sometimes it could just be what I experienced during a Reiki session. Like I might see, a spirit animal that comes through. So then I'll grab my animal book and, we'll go through that. Or I'll get this hunch of, oh, you should use this deck with this person to pull a card for them. And then it always resonates for them.
Can you talk a little bit about the crystals and what roles they play and what benefits each one kind of has?
Yeah, so with crystals, I typically use them corresponding to the chakras that I'm working with. So each crystal, like I have my one of my purple ones here, and all the purple crystals, they're crown chakra crystals, so it's a connection to the divine energy, but they're also really good for to help with anxiety and insomnia, headaches. So anything that kind of has to do with, the top part of your head area. And the way that you use them, there's so many different ways that you can use them. You can just hold them to receive the energy from them. You can use them during meditation. You can just have them in your space. And if you have trouble sleeping, or if you struggle with nightmares, you just have it by your nightstand and receive the energy from the crystal.
And do certain oils have the same benefits as well?
I would say it's very similar. Certain essential oils have certain benefits to, again, different parts of the body, or help with different emotions. Like I like to pair my purple crystals with lavender oil because it has very similar properties. It helps with anxiety, it helps with sleep, it helps to calm you down, just kind of that overall stress reduction.
That's interesting, because I have a nighttime routine, which people laugh at me for, but I have a nighttime routine. I do a diffuser with the blue light setting and peppermint and a sleepy time tea. That mellows me right out.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't know what that means, but I'm like, it works for me.
As long as it works for you. And that's what I tell people, is that with oils and with crystals, people tend to ask me, well, what should I get? And I always say, well, what's calling you? I would say your crystals are going to pick you. Like I've had people come in with the intention of buying something, and then they end up buying something else because it just called to them.
Yeah, and also had a bracelet with lavender. That definitely helped with like anxiety. That definitely helped keep me in check for some reason. It just did. And that smell just seemed to.
It's a centering type of a tool. I have actually one of my kids, he was going through a little bit of anxiety and some stress, and we, incorporated some essential oils on a bracelet for him to use it as a centering tool, which kind of, as you're talking about this, I wanted to ask, what are some of the age ranges that you've worked with?
So I typically work with adults. It's just what I'm comfortable with. I've always worked with adults. I did try doing kids mindfulness classes. They didn't really pick up, unfortunately. They did really well for a couple of weeks, and then they just kind of stopped.
Any teenagers?
I don't work with teenagers. It's just not my comfort level.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep. So it's mainly just adults then. Gotcha. And then, so people know, because I don't think we've talked about this, your location and business name, I guess, for the people that don't know, your business name and location, so they know how to actually get a hold of you and where you are.
Yeah, absolutely. It is Soul Healing Center, and I'm in Clarence, right on the corner of Sheridan and Harris Hill. So central location, pretty easy to find.
And then as far as people getting a hold of you, social media handles, emails, and we'll also link everything together as well. But if you want to give that out there too.
Yeah, I mean, really, I'm all over social media. So it's Soul Healing Center, Instagram and Facebook. And my website is Shapiro Holistic Health.
And Lana, you don't do just things in your location, correct? Like you expand and you do outside venues besides just your private practice?
I do. I love collaborating with practitioners all over. So I bring practitioners into my practice, and then I don't do too many events, but there are a couple of events that I do, like some vendor events and festivals. I'll be at Earth Spirit Expo in a couple of weeks, which is a big vendor event for mystics, spiritual practitioners, and Sinclair, and so it's nice and close. And then I'll be at the Western New York Fest that's coming up. I don't think I have the name right, but it's a couple of weeks at Buffalo River Works. It's just going to be a bunch of different holistic practitioners there.
Nice. So it's a great environment where you guys can all collaborate. And is that open to the public too, for people to come into? Oh, okay.
We may have to make a stop.
I know.
How often would you recommend having holistic work done? Like if you're having a Reiki session, how often would you recommend having that done?
I typically recommend every 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay.
Or, just kind of see how you feel. I have some people that are just on this constant rotation every 3 to 4 weeks. I had this one client who she was seeing me pretty regularly, and then she stopped coming, and then she came back and she said, I need to get back on the rotation, because she could tell the difference in how she felt.
Yeah, and I feel like it's almost like an it depends type of situation. It depends what's happening in your life. It depends how often you are available to be able to get yourself back into that routine. And it's funny how you can have a client step away and they say, nope, I need to be with you. Like we have clients like that ourselves.
Yeah.
And then they'll be like, oh no, I'm good. And then they're like, yeah, no, I'm not. I need you again.
Absolutely. And like I said, I like to compare it to massage. Like with my massage therapist, I know that I need to see him every 6 weeks, but I also messaged him last week being like, can you get me in because my back.
Right.
Yeah.
And and you touched on this earlier, and I thought it was a really interesting point too, when you had talked about prescription drugs versus holistic approach to things. And I think where you come from, you're really trying to get to the root of an issue, which I think is so important, and we don't focus enough on that in society. I feel like a lot of things, and again, there's a place for them, but a lot of it just take this instead of let's dig a little deeper and see what's going on, and try some other holistic approaches before we.
I agree. And I do. I feel like a lot of times, we talked a little bit about insurance companies and things like that. And you are not the first practitioner that we've heard say, I couldn't do my craft because of my limitations. So I needed to step out on my own. And we've had many people on our podcast that have said the same exact thing, because they knew that they could give so much more. So they had to step out and go their own route and take their own life into their own hands, creating their own businesses, because they wanted to be able to give people what they really needed, not just the band-aids of, well, here, let's just do this because this is what's easy and what's simple. And, and sometimes taking the harder path might be the way to go, where you really have to look deep down and go to the root causes of why these things are happening. And I love this holistic approach. I think it's really a great piece for people to be able to utilize it as a tool for their life.
Yeah. And often people will say, well, holistic services are more expensive, but when you think about it, they're actually not, because you're actually getting healed instead of having to continuously, get seen by a doctor who charges, $150 and sees you for 5 minutes. Whereas when you come in and see me, I spend an entire hour with you for less money than that.
There is such a difference in that.
Yeah.
And that's what I think too with health and fitness. We talk about mental, physical, but people forget about the emotional and spiritual aspect of things. And a lot of people that we work with, when you work with people, we do a lot of like general weight loss and things like that. There's usually some underlying factors that they have to work on, so that's such a, and some healing that needs to take place there before they can go forward and reach their goals. So it's just one of those things that I don't think we point out enough, because we haven't tackled that in society yet, the like emotional and spiritual side of things when it comes to fitness and health.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just had my personal experience where I was going through some physical health issues that again, I never got to the root cause of it until I started working with a functional practitioner who was able to help me figure out what the root cause is. And I was noticing that when I wasn't feeling well physically, I also couldn't connect to my intuition as well. And I felt more blocked and I couldn't sleep well. And so it's all very much connected.
Yeah, we don't put enough on that in society. We don't. That's so cool. Yeah, we'll definitely, I'm sure Beth and I will both be coming in to see. I want to finish.
Already thinking, I'm like, okay, I always do this though. This is totally me. I get so inspired when we have our guests on and they're bringing such great positivity. And I love people that want to take care of themselves, and that's their main focus in their life, is to help teach other people to take care of themselves. So I get totally drawn into it, and I love it. I do.
Yes. And I always tell my clients that everything that I do for you, I have tried on myself first. So it's always speaking from a personal experience.
I agree. Same. That's the same for myself.
Yeah. And thank you so much for coming on and explaining each approach and breaking it down and really giving a very descriptive breakdown of what each one entails. And that we really appreciate that. And for anybody out there too, we'll be linking up all of her information. So make sure to contact her, try out a service, let us know how it went. I'm interested in people's Reiki experiences because it's so hard to explain, like when you go through it. So I'm wondering if other people experience the same thing kind of I did.
Yes,
So,
and I really appreciate you guys having me on. I mean, I love talking about it. Like I said, I could talk about it all day and forever, but I think it's just so important to get this information out there that people just don't know what's available to them.
Right.
absolutely. And then, so before we let you go, we have some questions for you. We have some questions for you.
Oh boy.
I'll let Beth take this part over.
Spot for this one, but we want to know, if you're going out to eat, what are your top 3 restaurants in the area? Where are you going?
Okay. So my husband and I love Black and Blue. That's like our fancy restaurant where we go for anniversaries and special occasions. My favorite restaurant to take my daughter to is Moe's. She's a big fan of Mexican food. So Moe's or Salsaritas, we kind of switch on and off. And then personally, I love Rachel's. I love Mediterranean food.
Yep.
So, and nobody else in my family likes it. So that's like my treat for myself.
When you want your quiet time, I'm going to my own place by myself. Absolutely.
Getting my Rachel's, nobody else likes it.
If you are, you're not worried about having the most healthy thing, what is your cheat meal that you're going for? What is that down and dirty food that you just love, but you shouldn't have it all the time?
Chocolate lava cake.
Chocolate lava cake.
Gosh, absolutely.
So you're a sweets kind of girl.
Actually, typically I'm not. I'm more of a savory, but there's just something about that chocolate lava cake.
And of course, one of the most important topics we want to know, are you binge watching any TVs right now? Any TV shows right now? Are you binging any shows?
Actually not a TV person.
TV person. What about a book? You into a deep series?
So I love reading self-development books. I actually I host a book club at the Wellness Center every first Thursday of the month, if you're interested. So we like to stick with books that kind of, you know, self-development, personal development. We just did Brene Brown's Power of Vulnerability. That was our last book. So those types of books are kind of like, I love them and absorb them.
Share your book club reading in your Facebook group? Is that like out to the public, or is it just something that you share privately?
So it's out to the public. I do have a Facebook group. I think it's like monthly community meeting or something like that, but I can link that too. So many Facebook groups, I can't keep track of them.
I know it. Yes, yeah. I know.
We're the same way.
To find a good self-help type of a book. You know, I like to dabble in my murder mysteries once in a while, but I do love to also add in a book that is going to help empower me, make me feel like I'm a force to be reckoned with in the world. So
yes. And then I do love a podcast when I'm in the car, just, you know, quickies, 20, 30 minutes here and there.
Yep. When you are not practicing Reiki on everyone else, or reading astrology, or doing mysticism, what are you doing to de-stress for yourself?
I love my massages. I love to be out in nature. So my hammock in my backyard is my happy place where nobody talks to me. But I do have 2 young kids, so I don't get a whole lot of alone time. I'm actually surprised nobody has come through my door yet.
Wouldn't be the first time for any of us to see that, right?
No, one of my kids is out. It was funny. It's a quick funny story. I think I told this last week on the pod. Was a couple weeks ago, I was at work and I had like an hour, like a 2-hour break. And it was just one of those long weeks, you know. And I'm like, I'm going to have sushi by myself. And I went to Dow and I'm sitting in the corner. I'm eating and I hear, hey. And I'm like, I look up, hey, it was my kid's barber. And I'm like, you did not see me here. Okay, this is my happy space. I'm like, oh yeah, nobody needs to know. And unfortunately, all my family likes sushi, so they're always grabbing at my plate. I just wanted a plate of sushi that nobody was touching but me.
Yeah, I saw that.
yeah. But again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. This has been a complete blast. And again, we're going to make sure to link up all your information to the podcast. We'll be putting out clips during the week as well. And we'd love to have you on again in the future.
I would love to come back. I love doing this.
Awesome.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. So for myself and Coach Beth, we will catch you guys next podcast.
See you later.